although you look 60 or 59, you're not. So
No.
just for people to realize, he looks much younger than he is. This is actually extremely impressive that you're lifting these weights.
I'm actually 71.
Jerry, how did Mike Mentzer, how did he come up with such an extreme, because I've heard you talk about his training, and you mentioned that he really did train that way, that extreme, that one set, extreme intensity, feeling the pressure. Did you know Mentzer around that time, and do you have any idea how he came to these principles, how he developed them?
Sure. What happened was, I could tell exactly what happened. Mike Mentzer was using conventional training when he first started in bodybuilding. Like everybody else, 15, 20 sets of body part. And he entered a Mr. America, I believe it was 1971, I believe. Yeah, I think it was 1971. At the contest, he met Casey Viator.
Oh, it was Casey?
Casey. And Casey had a discussion. Casey was already doing this high intensity training under the aegis of Arthur Jones, who was selling Nautilus machines, maximum intensity or one or two sets to failure. And Mike Mentzer was always a very logical guy. Yeah. He's kind of like me in a way, but different in many ways, but in a sense that he would be very analytical.
That's why I always ask about him. I admire him so much. He seemed,
And he thought about, the principles, the fact that if you go to failure, you're working more muscle fibers. And he thought, if you're knocking out the muscle fibers by high intensity, why would you need to do 20 to 30 sets? It made sense to him. Another guy who also thought along these patterns was Dorian Yates much later on. In fact, he got his information from Mike Mentzer, so it was kind of passed on. So Mike Mentzer actually met with Arthur Jones. He became tremendously enamored with Arthur Jones, not in a homosexual way, but he once made a statement that Arthur Jones is God. That's how much he respected him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was totally into it. And see, the problem with Mike was he was kind of dogmatic in the sense that if he kind of sat with you and explained the principles between HIT or high intensity training, and you continue to do 20 to 30 sets without, stopping short, he would consider you an idiot, and he would tell you that you're an idiot. That was Arthur Jones' style, very direct and uncompromising. So a lot of people didn't like Mike Mentzer because of that. I got along great with him. I never had any problem.
This is so fascinating to me because I thought Mike Mentzer was the originator, and I didn't know that Arthur Jones was the inspiration.
Arthur actually training to failure, which is the core of this high intensity system, was around a long time, you know what I mean? But nobody ever put a label to it. Nobody ever emphasized it. Arthur Jones gets credit for being the first to emphasize high intensity training. And there was an ulterior motive, quite frankly, because he was selling these Nautilus machines. And Arthur Jones knew that most people don't like or don't have the time to spend hours in the gym. A lot of people will not work out because of the idea. In fact, I just wrote an article on Applied Metabolics about how to train when you don't have enough time. I gave a whole bunch of different ideas of people who are short on time. We could you could actually work out 20 minutes twice a week and make the same gains. I explained how to do it in the article. But the point being that in other words, Arthur Jones kind of like took the concepts and, because he was selling these Nautilus machines, he wanted to appeal to, let's say, not necessarily bodybuilders, let's say business people, very busy people, scientists, people that wanted to exercise, knew they needed to exercise, but didn't have time or inclination to spend hours in the gym. So he had to come up with a system that allowed you to use the machines and get in and out. And that's why he kind of keyed in on the, and he actually discovered himself empirically, because he was a kind of an amateur bodybuilder in the late 40s. He was doing like the normal thing where you do like high volume training. Because of time constraints, he was a very busy guy. He was a TV producer and all that. He had to cut his workouts down to 3 times a week, whole body, only a half hour. That's all he had time for. This is Arthur Jones. And he started making the best gains of his life. That's how it suddenly dawned on him, like the old epiphany. He said, wait a minute. He says, I've been knocking myself doing 3-hour workouts when I'm getting the same thing in 30 minutes. So then he came up with the Nautilus machines, which were designed to more fully exhaust the muscle because of this cam that supposedly worked the muscle all through the entire range of motion. You have, like, for example, when you do barbell curls, there's points where there's like no resistance. These machines were designed to have resistance throughout the whole range of movement. You combine that with the high intensity training to failure, now you've got a minimal workout. You have a workout that's 1 or 2 sets per exercise where you do the whole body, it's a 20-minute workout. So this,
I wish I had that. Yeah, go ahead.
so my point being that the high intensity system that Mike Mentzer used and Doria, that was actually developed to help sell the Nautilus machines. Because if he had told people, well, you got to do the Nautilus machine, you got to do like 10 sets of these, he never would have sold them. He had a system that was compatible with most people's desire to work out, which was not much.
Yeah, this is fascinating information. But Jerry, the Nautilus machines are really, there's like a lore about them. People always talk about that, the one that the lat machine. I wish I had a chance to try it. It sounds excellent.
I remember using the original pull-up machine at the, let me see, was it the original? I think it might have been the original Golds. No, not the original. I think they first got it when it was on 2nd Street or the present location. I can't remember where. But I was training with a partner. I got up to using like 450 pounds on that machine. Oh. And I'll tell you, Arthur Jones used to call that the upper body squat because it basically, this was the movement. You push the weight with your elbow. You need to hand it. And, you know, if you know the anatomy and the physiology of the latissimus dorsi, to get a fully contracted, people don't know this, the fully contracted position to involve the lats, the arms have to be alongside the torso, past the torso, like this. Like
wow.
when you do a chin, Vince Guaranda taught me, he was way ahead of this. Vince Guaranda taught me that when you do a chin, you use a shoulder width grip, not wide shoulder, and you bring your body all the way up so the bar is right under your pec, so you literally kind of bend over at the top. But if you look at that, what's the position? Your elbows are alongside your torso towards the back, so you're fully contracting the lats. My lats actually got huge doing that exercise, gigantic. Today,
I'm jealous.
Well, today there's a pullover machine at Gold's Gym, and I'm using a fraction of the weight.
Is it good? Does it work? Does it work like that one?
It doesn't. It's not as good as the original. It's not as good. It just doesn't work as good. And I can only use about 150 pounds, you know, which is baby weight.
That's not baby weight for your age, for God's sake.
Let me put it this way: my warm-up weight when I was using the heavy pull-up machine was 200 pounds. That was my warm-up weight.
How does it feel when you? Does it upset you, or do you just laugh about it as you age and slowly lose some of the muscular?
I can't. I'm not going to deny. You know, having been a bodybuilder for so many years, it affects my ego. You know, I have like two feelings about it. The first is I'm so pissed off that I don't have any strength anymore. My strength is down to nothing. It's almost embarrassing. You know, I'm using weights that are lighter than what I used to use in warm up, as I said. The other thing, my rational brain says, wait a minute, Jerry, you know, you're at this age, you're not going to get big muscles. Even if you took every steroid known to man, the best thing you could do is try and keep what you have and stay healthy. So don't worry about the weight. And I think we talked about this before. You have the research showing, and I employ this a lot myself, where if you do higher reps and first they said you have to go to failure. Now the new research says go to near failure. You know, stopping just short of failure. You know, you do like 20, 25 reps just short of failure or going to failure. Either way, you can get the same muscle stimulation as you can do using 90% of one rep max, which is very heavy weight. And I'm not going to tell you that I'm growing, but using this kind of system, I use it especially on my legs.
Yeah, on the legs, that really works. 20 reps.
Yeah, I'm not losing any more size on my legs. So my legs are stable. They're not getting bigger. As a matter of fact, my legs are actually pretty muscular, if I say so myself. I actually have vascularity in my legs now. Never had that as a competitive bodybuilder. Isn't that strange? In my 20s, at my best, I had muscular, my legs were always my best body part, but I didn't have a lot of vascularity. Now I do.
Interesting. And we should mention for the audience to know, although you look 60 or 59, you're not. So just for people to realize, he looks much younger than he is. This is actually extremely impressive that you're lifting these weights.
I'm actually 71, which is
it's incredible. Yeah.
Painful for me to even say that.
No, I think you're gonna live past 100. You know what's funny? There's this it's a weird thing I've been watching on TV recently. There's a ex-mafia guy who's become quite popular on YouTube. His name is Michael Francesi or something like that. He's from New York. His dad, apparently Sonny Francesi, was a famous mafia guy. What I discovered is this guy was in prison for 50 years, left prison at 101. And stayed alive to 103. And I was watching interviews of him at 103 just because I have a peculiar fascination with centenarians. So I was watching him, 0 wrinkles. Zero. It talks normal. His hands had 0 arthritis, no bumps on any finger. It's incredible.
That is incredible.
He must have one of those protective, incredible genes.
Got to have those, what I call the mutant genes. And we talked about this, you know, I do a lot of research on longevity myself, and I write about it in the Applied Metabolics. But there's one thing I've come to realize with all this reading is the fact that if you really want to live to over 100, you have to have mutant genes. In other words, you can do everything right. You could eat right, you could cut calories, you could exercise, but if you don't have the mutant genes, you're not going to make it to over 100.
Do you have any centenarians in your family?
Unfortunately, no. I don't have mutant genes, so the odds of me making it to 100 are very slim.
Wait, did you check the genes? You check the FOXO3A and all those kind of things?
I haven't checked it. No, I haven't checked it. But I do take nutrients, for example, astaxanthin, which you've probably heard of.
Yeah, I know you like astaxanthin.
A video on astaxanthin, I kept on mispronouncing it. It's kind of funny, but astaxanthin, it's a carotenoid in the same family as beta carotene and lycopene. It actually directly stimulates the FOX202 gene.
I wasn't taking it, Jerry, but you're so adamant about it. I started taking it last month. I really did, because you always take it. There's no harm, I thought. There's not that much evidence for it in humans, obviously, but
even if it didn't stimulate that longevity gene, I would take it for another reason, because astaxanthin, here I'm doing it again, it has free entry through the blood-brain barrier. It gets into the brain. And if you think about the brain, you have all those polyunsaturated fats in the brain, like DHEA. It's mostly polyunsaturated fat with saturated fat around the cell membranes and the neurons a little bit. But the brain, a lot of the problems that involve the degeneration of the brain happen with oxidation of these fats in the brain. So I'm figuring if the astaxanthin can get in the brain, it's a very potent antioxidant. If it can keep those polyunsaturated fats stable, that alone to me is worth taking.
You know what is the most effective, though, at getting in the brain? Melatonin. Of all the free radical scavengers. There are studies using anal suppository melatonin on ALS patients. 150 milligrams anal suppository totally normalized their C-reactive protein at elderly ALS patients. And then in Parkinson's disease, 90 milligrams orally, not totally normalized, but significantly reduces their C-reactive protein. I take 40 every night.
Wow, that's a huge amount.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Did you realize, Leo, that if you take even 1 milligram of melatonin,
far above it,
taking a mega dose.
I'm using it as a drug.
Your body produces it in micrograms.
Micrograms, yeah, I know.
We don't mean by a microgram. 1,000 micrograms equals 1 milligram.
Yeah.
You're taking I'm not going to say mega. You're taking a gigantic amount.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I've been doing it for about 6 months. It was very difficult to do originally. Interestingly, when you megadose, even 1 is a megadose, really. But when you megadose with like 5 or 10, sometimes you'll find you'll wake up 2 hours later. Okay. It's interesting. Another interesting thing about melatonin that not many people know, I've just learned from personal experience. When you megadose it, it seems to increase REM sleep particularly. Like if you take a cholinergic, for example, if you take acetylcholine, some kind of, choline that turns into acetylcholine in your brain before you sleep, or if you take the Alzheimer's disease medication, donepezil, you'll get more vivid, lucid dreams. Melatonin at high doses does similar things.
It's known to do that. It's always been known to increase, especially in REM sleep.
REM sleep, yeah.
The dreams almost seem like you're right there.
Yes. Oh, if you there's a couple. If you take nowadays they have these like nicotine patches that you can put in your mouth. If you put one of those and fall asleep, you'll have a lucid dream like you've never had before because of the cholinergic stimulation. If you take,
and remember they attach to the I believe it's like nicotinic
cholinergic receptors.
Exactly. So
exactly.